PP the Hamster asking, what? J.K. Rowling is transphobic? Yeah. She really is. But yeah, people were boycotting the game for that, which was subject to a lot of criticism. I recommend, I believe it was Sean's video, not me, another Sean, on J.K. Rowling. Is it Sean or Three Arrows? Oh, J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling's new friends, linking J.K. Rowling to the far right, right here, this video. Being far right is bad enough, but being transphobic, I mean, both are kind of linked. Watcher says adding phobic to everything doesn't aid the conversation much. It's unfair framing. It's unfair framing of the opponent. People can hate X without being afraid of it, or X phobic. It's just rhetoric. All right, sorry guys. J.K. Rowling isn't transphobe. She's just a bigot. She's not afraid of trans people. Actually, I think she is actually afraid of trans people. She excused her transphobia against, like, for example, more specifically, trans women, by saying that she was abused by men, and that when she sees a trans woman, especially if she was to cross one in a public bathroom, whatever, she because of her experience with men in the past, she would feel violated. So she is afraid, but not every transphobe is afraid of trans people, I guess. They're bigots. I think it's semantic at that point. Like a racist, right? If we call it a race phobe, it's the same thing. Language just evolves. Yeah. But the ideas, at least in terms of transphobia and bigotry, remain. Yeah, Paige, that's the idea that Paige says she assumes all men are predatory and assumes trans women are just a variety of predatory men. Absolutely. And that's one of the issues with, for example, the whole bathroom bills that started and that took off. It's the idea that men are predatory and that trans women are just, predatory men. It's a harmful. It's funny because a lot of conservatives who are transphobic and who adhere to that line are people who say, well, these raging feminists keep saying that men are all predators and all that, and then when it comes to trans women, they say, well, men are predators. That's why we have to protect women from trans women. PP the Hamster says, what did she do exactly? Did she express explicit bigotry, or does she not agree with the idea and therefore is titled as such? If you don't agree with the idea that trans women are women, I do think that that it is bigotry. I feel like if you say that trans women are men, I feel like that's bigotry. Don't you? Why is it bigotry? Well, not accepting the gender identity of someone is bigotry. It's like if someone says that they're like, for example, if someone says they're like they identify as gay, if we're not taking gender identity, we're taking sexual identity. If someone says gay and they're like, you're not gay. You might be confused, but you're not gay, right? Well, we would call them we'd call them homophobe. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, I'm confused for identifying as gay. And I think when it comes to gender identity, it's the same. They're two very different things. But your approach to it, if you say that, if someone identifies as gay, you're saying, no, you're not gay. Well, what the fuck do you mean I'm not gay? What is the underlying reason as to why you're telling me I'm not gay? Is it because you don't think that gay people are a thing? Do you think that gay people don't exist or shouldn't exist? So when you say that, when you don't accept the fact that trans women are women, you're implying that you don't think that trans women should exist, or that you're erasing their identity as a concept. Yeah, also like homophobia or like transphobia doesn't necessarily mean that you're afraid, but as Finlay says, hatred of a group comes from the fear of the group and questions influence on society and people, and that they are uncomfortable with change. So like when you say don't like if you don't like trans people, trans women, you might not be afraid of them, but you might be afraid of the fact that they exist or that they're having more power or more. And when I say power, I mean like they can now advocate for their rights. Yeah, PP the hamster says, no, a female is a female. You can't change something that you are. I respectfully disagree. But the thing is, as Paige says, there's a difference between gender and biological sex. Like you said, female is biological, but a woman is not biological. It's a very elemental and like fundamental distinction that we need to understand if we're going to talk about that, is the difference between sex and gender, female and women. A lot of people don't want to accept that there's a difference, but if you don't believe that there's a difference, why is there such a different? Why are those two distinct categories? Like, why were they identified as distinct categories? Why is gender and sex not changeable? And I think that the argument is really easy to make. See it as a rejection of reality. But like, for example, I'm non-binary, so I'm technically trans. If you understand that gender and sex is different, then I think that it's easy to accept trans people and people who with the whole gender thing. And as Natai says, gender is a social category influenced by sex. Well, gender is a social category. Sex is like a biological category. So, like, sex is like the chromosomes. It's like, and it's not even. It's bimodal. It's not binary. So there's characteristics, physical characteristics for what we usually associate with female and some with male. The chromosomes are part of it. Genitalia is part of it. Those things. But gender is everything that comes from like social attributes. So long hair, usually long hair, and like a lot of in some cultures was associated with being a woman, right? Skirts right now are associated with being a woman, but those things are socially determined. There's no reason why long hair should be only for women. Now it's being changed because like some men actually challenged that. There's a video I saw just today about in the 60s, people revolting against the idea that men had long hair because they thought that why are they taking themselves for women? So if you understand this distinction between the social category, which is gender, and the biological category, which is sex, then you can understand that socially, the things that we associate with genders are arbitrary, right? And for example, the reason why I identify as non-binary is because I reject the social category of being a man, because I don't identify with it. I don't identify with a lot of its values, and I don't identify with a lot of its presentation. I like, in terms of values, I think I associate more with like womanly values. Robin says, I love you, but biology is real. It is real. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying there's two different categories. It's not hard. It's not one or the other. Both, like, for example, biologically, I'm a male. I can prove it to you, but then this stream would be terminated and I'd probably lose my channel. However, socially, I'm presenting as a male because I have a lot of, I'm presenting as a man because I have many features that are associated with men. For example, my beard. What I could do is put makeup on, which would be presenting as a woman. But makeup is not a female thing. It's a woman thing. So it's a social thing. But many males can wear makeup. I don't know if it makes sense. Yeah, Adam. Yeah, nobody argues that biology isn't real. Yeah, exactly. It can be says no one is that. Like, a lot of conservatives will say, well, you're denying biology. It's not denying biology. It's understand, like, recognizing it, but also recognizing that there's a social factor associated very often to it, but that is completely arbitrary, and that many people might not be comfortable associating with. I don't associate with being a man in the sense that I just don't associate with the values, with the traditional roles associated with being a man. If I was a trans girl, then I would associate a lot more with womanly values, and I would want to be perceived as a woman. Robin says, I was a feminine boy, long hair in a violent man's world. I was teased and tortured. I am feminine, but there's so much man to me. I'm violent like... Yeah, well, that's the thing. There you go. It shows that there's ambiguity to it. And if you want to embrace your more feminine side as a man, you can, but you can also you seem to also want to embrace your masculine side. And if you identify as a man, that's really good. But if you wanted to identify as a woman, maybe you would if you weren't as teased and tortured when you were young. Then you could also be a woman, or you could be like me, non-binary, and do whatever the fuck you want because you don't want to be constricted by those social expectations. Yeah, Adam says 99% of these arguments are based on bad information or full ignorance. Yeah, well, there's a lot of conservative talking points. Like the idea that biology is real is an argument against the existence and the validity of trans people. Is it's 101. Paige says Step Back History has a video on gender categories in history and how they are very different in time and place. I would love to watch that video. I probably will after the stream. And I know Natai is going to say react stream. I'm not reacting to Step Back History's video. Genwa Mugdad says, just a question because I'm genuinely curious. If someone presents as non-binary because they don't fit the societal value of their gender, aren't you reinforcing stereotypes? I think they're deconstructing stereotypes. But gender roles are absolutely linked to stereotypes, and that would be, let's say, a non gender abolitionist, people who believe that gender should be abolished in general and see everyone as genderless or without those social expectations. As I'm a gender abolitionist. Those societal values of their gender are basically stereotypes, right? Of course it is. For example, the idea that, as Robin was saying earlier, hunting is something that men want. Violence is something men want. But that's stereotypes. A lot of men are soft. A lot of men don't like hunting, right? And what are the societal values on women, right? Makeup, you have to care about your appearance. You have to, wear womanly clothes or whatever. Those are stereotypes. The stereotype of a woman is the societal values of that gender. I hope I understood that question, and I hope I answered it correctly. Yeah, science has shown it's a spectrum, even regarding biological sex. Science Show Hank Green has a great video on it for those interested. We're not doing it. We're not looking it up. But yeah, you should. I've heard about that, and I do think it's important. Yeah, Bang Tax is saying it's obvious you can be born a male or a female, but the terms of man and women bring a lot of specific values that you can't expect everyone to fit in. That's why non-binary exists. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why we identify as non-binary. But you can also be a man and not fit with many of the specific values that are ascribed to men. Same thing for women. You can be defiant and say, I still identify as a man, even if I'm soft, even if I don't like sports, even if I do the blah, 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 blah. You can still identify as a man. And that's why gender is such a weird concept to have in a way, because you can be a man in your own way, but also to be a man, you have to it's a category that's associated with very vague and arbitrary concepts. It's one of the reasons why we want to get rid of it. Watcher says, PP the hamster, I know, that's the point. People also call everybody who dislikes gays homophobes just to stir up conflict. I mean, like, if you're a homophobe, in itself, that's a conflict, right? Like, it's not, people calling people who dislike gays homophobes are not stirring up the conflict. The fact that you don't like gays is the conflict itself. Oh, this guy doesn't like black people. But people who call him racist are the ones who are trying to stir shit up. No. I think a lot of people who don't think that trans women are women, or who don't think that trans people are valid, it won't happen on a snap of a finger to accept trans identities. The same way that people who didn't accept gay people as a concept, it didn't like took the snap of a finger to accept homosexuality, right? It's going to take a while. And I think the more it's being normalized, the more people are going to accept it and are going to realize that, you know, waging a war against it is just doing more harm than good. But yeah, no, I think it's okay to disagree with a lot of what I said. And I think just having that conversation sparks thoughts afterwards. It's gonna spark thoughts with me as well, right? I'm not saying that that it's only one way, but I do hope that after having a conversation like that on this platform also makes you think about it, and I think it will. And like, you might not change your opinion, you might, but you know, I'm not expecting people to like change their minds right away. Gender is similar to race in the interaction between social categories in biology. And they actually interact. Yes, yeah. Sorry, that took a while. Yes, for sure. A lot of the things that are socially attributed to race and gender are like arbitrary or like come from history often, and are not necessarily associated to the biology of the individual, but more to stereotypes or to for sure. Yeah, Paige, I'm totally with you on that one. I'm more worried about all the anti-trans bills rolling out in red states than a transphobic children's author. Yes, and same thing goes for transphobes online, right? Like people who say that trans women are not women. I'm more worried about the anti-trans bills, and I feel like and transphobes online can definitely change. Though the transphobic children's author is very influential because they have a big platform, they have a lot of money, but at the same time, I don't know how much we can change their minds. Yeah, the whole culture war around trans people is also like the fact that it's focused on that makes it very unproductive, and that's why I think like when someone talks, like uses Ben Shapiro rhetoric to talk about trans people and like the culture war, I think it's good to just say like, all right, well, here are my arguments, and like you can think about it, instead of going at like attacking them for it. Because if you attack them for it, you're validating the culture war, the if you don't accept gender ideology, you are a transphobe, you're a homophobe, and you'll be chastised, blah blah blah. Like, I think a good way to not feed in that culture war narrative, that very I don't know how to say it, like divisive and like hyper confrontational like situation, is just to say, yeah, for sure. Well, here are my arguments and think about it. That's what I try to do with I think it's PP the Hammer. I think. And it's like, here are my arguments, and PP the Hamster, sorry. It's like, yeah, like if you get really angry and all that, it just feeds the culture war thing. At the end of the day, we're just individuals with very little power, unless, you know. So Adam says, good advice. I need to remember not to feed the beast. Yeah, by not being I've made that mistake of being angry, and it's normal to be angry. And it's like, like, of course you might get angry. But at the same time, I feel like letting people, like, just giving your arguments and letting people think about it. Like, I fell in the alt-right pipeline when I was pretty young, when I was like 16 years old. I was in the skeptic community, and I was, yeah, definitely sliding my way to the alt-right. And I was having this conversation on Omegle, of all places. And on Omegle, there was this feminist. Oh, and I hated feminists back then. Feminists, I hated them. And banshees, harpies. And we were having a conversation, and she was just so chill. And my idea of feminists was that, oh, they're triggered all the time. They're yelling at me. They're going to call me a misogynist freak, a creep guy, whatever. And I was talking to her, and she was giving good arguments or whatever. And I was just so angry. I was the triggered one in the end, you know? And then I was basically embarrassing myself to that feminist because I was so triggered, and I was embodying the thing that I was criticizing her for. And she was just super chill. And I just ended the conversation super angry, and she was chill. And after that, it was like, I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed. My heart was beating. I was all red. And that's when I realized, like, holy shit, maybe I should reevaluate what I was thinking of what a feminist is. There might be banshee feminists. There might be like harpy feminists somewhere. But that one was chill and like humiliated me. And if I don't want to be humiliated again, maybe I need to reevaluate some things. That's a bit of my story. And to add to the trans discussion, here in Spain, they add the trans law, who gives a lot of rights to the trans people. I didn't know that. And the far right parties and media share a lot of fake news to take that up. That's amazing. Like, it's easy to see everything that's going on, especially in the US, like the pushback of like conservatives and like a lot of anti-trans bills. But people who are anti-trans, I think, if I remember the statistics correctly, are a minority. People who are transphobic, or I don't want to trigger people in chat. People who are bigoted against trans people are a minority, right? That doesn't mean that things are fine, because you can be a minority in power. Minorities, privileged minorities, have been in power since the dawn of time. So that doesn't mean that trans people are okay, like are safe and secure. But the fact that trans people are being more and more normalized, and a lot of people are backing them in like this social coming out, right? Is is good news. Happy to see that it's happening in Spain. It's like we see, like, the United States as like the center of the world, obviously, and it's very influential and all that. But like in some places, right, like rights for trans people are being advanced and being defended and promoted, and it's great.